Welcome everybody to today's training. I'm really happy to have you here. Because it's on my phone, I can't get as much space as I usually do. Usually you can see more of my surroundings. So I was hoping you'd be able to see the board over here. I've made a couple notes. To be fair, when you think about it, it's like a mirror reflection of what I've written anyway, so you probably have a hard time reading it. So I'll get a little bit creative next time. Hopefully we can come up with a way for me to rotate my phone or my computer or whatever it is so you can read the notes. But in any case, we can go ahead and dive into today's training. So the first thing that I want to talk about is when it comes to Pinterest marketing, what are the benefits? So one of the biggest benefits, and the one that I love the most, is that it can actually boost the traffic for more leads and more eyes to land on your website. Now, if you don't care about having more leads and eyes on your website, I want to question that, because you really should. Being able to have more people look at your site, even if you don't have a blog, that's something that I want to just get out there and make clear. You don't actually need to be consistently posting blogs on your website or wherever in order to utilize Pinterest. So let me know if you have a blog. That's amazing. I will tell you why that's even better. However, if you don't have a blog, let me know that as well, and I'll make sure to kind of incorporate how you can still use Pinterest to your advantage and to help boost traffic and get those not hot leads, but let's call them cold leads that you can eventually nurture and get into warm and hot leads and eventually paying clients. Okay, so today we're actually going to learn how you can start utilizing Pinterest for your business. It can be a little bit time consuming, but there are ways that you can get started that shouldn't be that overwhelming, and that's actually what I'm doing inside of my business right now. We're just getting started with Pinterest, and it's nothing crazy. Like, we're not trying to pin like 50 or 100 pins a day. It's starting small with like 15 pins, so it's something that should be a little bit more manageable, and I'll show you how you can essentially make the most out of the content that you're already putting out there, so you're not spending a crazy amount of time on Pinterest and you're not getting essentially burnt out from it. Okay. So we'll get into this. So we talked about boosting traffic, which is amazing. The second reason Pinterest is so powerful is because it is not social media. It is actually a search engine. So for those of you that weren't familiar with the difference and just felt or thought that this was social media, one of the key differences is that because it's a search engine, essentially everything that you put on Pinterest, you actually use very specific keywords. So yes, you do have to do a little bit of research, but Pinterest actually as a platform makes it really easy to decide and do a little bit of research and figure out what those keywords are being, like what are going to be the most powerful, which ones are being searched, which ones are going to give you the best results. So after doing a little bit of research on Pinterest with keywords, you can actually start using them on your own pins, which is amazing, because the key difference between, let's say, posting on Pinterest versus posting on Instagram is that on Instagram, people have to either follow you or they have to search for a specific hashtag and then kind of go through and hope to find you if you're using that hashtag. Whereas on Pinterest, you use a variety of different keywords, and they're not the same as hashtags. They are in the sense that they're searchable, but they're not, because the way you embed them, you don't have to go hashtag whatever. You actually, it's much more strategic the way that you're using these keywords. And when people go on Pinterest and you search something, let's say how to make money online or whatever it is that people are searching for that applies to your business, your posts, if you've embedded the keywords properly within them and based on Pinterest algorithm and whatever they think about your content, they're gonna start showing up there. So you don't need followers, you don't need likes, you don't need engagement, you just need to have good content out there. So if you're the type of person that believes very strongly that you're putting really good content out there on Instagram, but perhaps because you don't have the followers or you don't have the likes and the comments and the whatevers, you're not getting the type of engagement and the eyes on your content that you deserve, Pinterest would be a great platform. And finally, the biggest perk to Pinterest, other than boosting traffic, which is amazing, and the fact that it's a search engine, which is again incredible, it's shelf life. It actually will stay on there and be found by people who continuously, day after day, month after month, year after year, go to search something with your keywords. Your content, even if you posted it 6 months ago, will show up. So it's like magical. You're no longer working day by day, spitting out content day by day, whether that's on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever, you're actually creating content today. You're putting in the time, whether it's today, tomorrow, for the month, whatever it might be, for something that can reap the benefits back, and you can get that return on that time investment and that effort and that whatever months ahead of time, like months in advance. So it's crazy. It's, if you're the type of person that wants to spend less time in their business and then land more clients, this is definitely something that you want to at least consider. Whether that means that you're going to start doing this now after this training, or perhaps you decide, you know what, I've got a couple other things that I want to prioritize first, but then that's going to be my next one because holy shit, I didn't realize how much I could get out of it. That's what I want to make sure that at least I kind of bring some awareness to everything that you can get from Pinterest. I want to talk a little bit more about the whole blogging versus not blogging thing, because I know you guys were saying some of you either have thought about it or you do it, or just, let's be honest, a lot of us don't do it. So when it comes to blogging, what's so great about it, if you do have a somewhat consistent blog flow inside of your website and you're posting, let's say, once a week or something like that, it doesn't have to be a crazy number of blog posts, but what happens with that is that you actually are creating fresh content, and Pinterest does favor fresh content because you have to, as I'm assuming you know, when you click on a pin, it's tied to a URL. So that's going to direct you either to your website, to other social media platforms, maybe like a landing page, a freebie, whatever it's going to lead to. So if you have new content, you have more URLs to then essentially tie into Pinterest. So that's going to be much more favored over, let's say, if you are continuously posting the same thing over and over and you're not coming up with anything new. So if you're a blogger inside of your business and you're putting out fresh content, this is even better of a platform, and I definitely want you to consider it a little bit more seriously than perhaps if you're not blogging. So now, to make everybody else comfortable, all of us who are not necessarily blogging on a continuous basis, that's actually fine. You don't need a blog, because like I mentioned, what you're linking to that pin is a URL. So if you're posting really valuable Pinterest content, go ahead and repurpose that, because what's stopping you? You're still providing value. It's still gonna have some sort of hook or some grab, something to get people's attention and go ahead and either pin it or at least click through to learn more. And if that's gonna direct to your Instagram, they can learn a lot more from your Instagram. And if that's one of the platforms that you're using to grow your business, why not? You gain a new follower, a new audience member, and then you can continue to nurture those leads just the same that you would have any other Instagram follower. So don't be either intimidated or feel like this is not a good enough platform for you if you don't blog. Perhaps you want to get into blogging in the future, or perhaps it's something that you're not interested in at all, and that's okay. But it can still bring about results, and that's something that it's something that I notice that a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for those answers like, okay, how do I attract more clients? How do I land more clients? It's all about finding those people, because there's so many social media platforms and there's so many people out there, whether it's potential clients or competition. So sometimes, and what I see a lot is that people are like, okay, so how do I find these people, right? So this is one of the ways you do, and we'll go into that, absolutely. Let me just check a little bit on the comments. I didn't know you could link to your Instagram posts. Absolutely, yes. 100%. Start doing that. You can link to whatever you want. What I would suggest is to make sure that the link makes sense. So if, for example, you have a post that says blah, 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 and it catches the person's interest, make sure whatever you're linking to actually continues on that conversation. So otherwise, like if you think about the reverse, if it says, hey, how to make money, and then it links to an Instagram, let's say, post that talks about, I don't know, what you were doing that day, that's not gonna help, because they're just gonna exit out. You gotta make sure that you follow through with that connection, okay? So whether that's linked to Instagram, linked to a landing page, your website where you have your services, if let's say you're talking about branding and or whatever service you offer and how that can help you land more clients, then you can go ahead and link it to the service page where you talk a little bit about how it is that branding helps you land more clients. And that's perfect, because you've educated, you made them feel like, okay, there's a solution, there's a way that they can start earning money or whatever it is that they're looking to do. And then there's the call to action right there. It's like, hey, book a call or hire me or whatever the invitation is. So you are in time getting more people to see these offers and getting them to convert. So absolutely, not just with blogs, get creative with that. If there's anything that, if there's a creative way that you can link a post, because the graphics, you're creating them yourself, right? So they can say literally anything, as long as you're being like, you have that hook and that you build that interest, and then you have the keywords that people would actually search for, so that your content is being shown on the search engine, aka Pinterest, then yes, you can do absolutely whatever you want. So I know you can't see this 100% properly, but I'll try and move it a little bit just so you get a sense of what it is that I've got going on here. I've got this little board. I don't know, we'll see. I really want to use it because it just makes me feel, I don't know, like I'm having fun with it. Like, it's got bullet points. You've got your traffic, your SEO, and your shelf life. So that's what we were talking about before. I'm just gonna shrink a little bit on here so we can hang out. If any of you guys can actually read this, let me know. If you can't, then let me know as well, so I can try and figure out a better way of displaying all of this, because we gotta get better at this, right? Make one for a project you did and link it to that portfolio. Yes, 100%. When you think about it, especially you as a graphic designer, brand designer, you likely use Pinterest all the time. You're searching for inspiration. So the same way that you search for inspiration and you likely encourage your own clients to go on Pinterest and create a mood board, people are using Pinterest all the time. So they see these brands, they see the portfolio. Even if you have, it's backwards. I know. You mean you can't read backwards, really? That's why I tried to do a bullet point. So at a minimum, if any of you were not smart enough, but skilled enough to be able to read backwards, it would only be like one word or like one phrase to have to read. It's better if you read it for us. Perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and read it for you, and I'll come up with a better way of doing all of this. So we covered our benefits. The next thing I want to do is talk about the profile. This is super basic, and if you've already gone ahead and optimized your Instagram profile, it's pretty similar. Like, you're essentially looking to make a first good impression. So what you want to do is optimize your profile at first by looking at your profile picture, make something it's clear, it's you, it brings out your brand, your personality. People can see that it's like a real person. Number two, there's like a title. So the same way that you have on Instagram, you know how your title, where you either put your name or your business title, comes out in bold on Instagram, you have the same space on Pinterest, and that is searchable. So you want to make sure to use keywords. So if you're a brand designer, go ahead and put brand designer. If you're a wedding photographer in Kentucky, put wedding photographer Kentucky. So use words that are going to very clearly explain to people what you do. If the local area matters, go ahead and include that. And if there's some specific content that you're an expert in, go ahead and include that as well. That way, when people are searching for this kind of content, your account could show up, because people can in fact follow Pinterest people. So you can follow the entire account, you can follow specific boards depending on maybe there's some that interest you more than others. So in order to make sure that you're showing up, you need to optimize your profile to ensure that people can at a minimum find you and then decide to follow you, keep tabs on you, etc. So go ahead, optimize your profile. That's the first thing that I want you to do. The next thing we've got is the keyboards. So this is all about making sure that you're utilizing Pinterest to the best of, to get the most potential and the most results and the most return on that time investment. I know that a lot of you probably use Pinterest for fun. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. I pin so many random things like recipes and decor ideas and party decoration ideas and travel inspiration and plans and guided tours and all this stuff. So if you're like that, like DIY crafts, all the 9 yards, like all the weird stuff. So if you're like that, that's okay. However, when it comes to your business account, I want you to kind of like get that out of your mind. Stop thinking of Pinterest as like a fun platform to find Halloween costume ideas and whatever, and start thinking of it instead as a business relationship, a business hub where people can find useful information for their own business or their own life. So the way that you would do this is to pick keyword topics essentially. So if any of you guys were here for the content that converts training that we did, the video, if you weren't here, let me know. I'll tag you in it so you can go ahead and watch it after. But we talked about content buckets and brand pillars, which are essentially the same thing. But the whole point of that is that you're coming up with content bucket and topic ideas that are so crucial to your business. So what are you an expert in? What are your services? What do they have to do with? And so come up with a big list of that. So what can you essentially create so much content around that it would never run dry? So when you have a list, let's say as a brand designer, you might want to consider boards such as, or topics such as brand design, maybe logo could be one in its own because you can create so much content under that. Maybe there's one in color palettes, maybe one in website wireframe layouts. There could be landing page design. There could be inspiration, just mood board inspiration. It could be, the list is never ending. Just try and figure out like, hey, what services you offer, what deliverables do you offer, and what are you good at? So if you, yes, you're a brand designer, but let's say you cater specifically to a specific niche, think about, okay, so what value are you bringing to that niche? And perhaps you can make that into a board. So the whole point is that you have keyboards that, yes, not only can you continue to create content for these on like an ongoing and never-ending basis, that way you can always continue to pin stuff on your account, but also you want to make sure that you have boards that are full in general, which I know is kind of like very similar. But the reason why I want to say that is because if you have a couple of boards that you're never pinning anything to, it's just showing that, one, you're not an expert in that, they're gonna drop to the bottom and they're a waste of your time. So I want you to, if you're gonna go ahead and start using Pinterest, or you already were and now you're gonna go back in and revamp the entire thing and start using it on a consistent basis, I want you to actually get something useful out of it, as opposed to just spending a lot of time pinning and creating content that's not gonna serve you. So create your key boards that have to do with your business and they're going to help you. So essentially, what are people going to search for that they're going to get value from you, and actually start thinking, okay, I could hire you because you have all this information, you're an expert, and you clearly know what it is that I need. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then on a tiny little side note, we talked about the home decor pins and we talked about the Halloween costume idea pins and all that kind of stuff. It's not that I want you to keep them. Okay, I told you to put them aside and start thinking like business-like. However, I do gotta kind of relay the importance of remembering who you are and who your brand is as a whole, like who's your business. So if there are key things about your brand that stand out, that people know you for, that's okay. You're entitled to have a board or two, or just don't go crazy with the amount of boards that showcase that personality. So as an example, I have a board all about wine. And people know that. Like, they know that I drink wine on a weekly basis. They know that I love red wine. They know that I love everything like interior decor and wine combo related. So if you're gonna have that, that can still provide value in a different way, and it can still showcase that personality. So there's nothing wrong with doing it. Just do it like very sporadic, like very in a minimal way. So that's essentially your profile. Is people landing on it, seeing what boards you have, seeing the value that you have to provide, so they can decide to follow you or not, or at a minimum they get to find a pin or two, pin them, click through your website and whatever. So you're getting value from what it is that you're doing inside of your profile. So let me know how you're feeling so far. Did you understand everything I meant about the picking your keyboards, essentially your brand pillars? And do let me know if you, my fingers obviously cover the screen, that's not a good thing. Do let me know if you missed the training on the content creation piece, and then I can make sure to shoot that your way. But if not, we will move on to activity. Alrighty. So the next section I really wanted to talk about is activity, because this is all based around how much time you're gonna be spending on this, which we wanna minimize as much as possible. And two, I wanna explain to you guys the different value pieces that you can actually go ahead and either put, pin, whatever you wanna call it, right? So there's different levels of what's gonna help you and what's gonna only somewhat help you. So it's good to notice the difference so you know how much time you're spending and how much time you're spending on things that are actually gonna give you a return. So when it comes to activity, we're talking about, yes, consistency is king, is queen. It is the number one thing you got to keep in mind. So typically you do need to post daily. So I know that can seem overwhelming. So it's like I said towards the beginning of the training, like you don't have to pin hundreds of pins a day, and you don't have to come up with original content right off the bat either. You can go ahead and pin like an average of, let's say, 15 to 25 pins a day. You can start with 15, maybe you start with 5, honestly. Like, and let me disclose here now, before we go into further, I'm not a Pinterest expert, and I know you guys know that. Okay, I am, if anything, I'm a brand design expert, and if anything, I'm like a coaching expert, but I am not a Pinterest expert. But I'm getting into Pinterest. I've taken Pinterest courses before, so this is just like mini Coles notes of what to essentially know right off the bat, what to keep in mind, and if you're gonna get into it, don't waste your time with getting overwhelmed or doing too much. I want to get you the basics so that you can start to notice and the traction that you get through Pinterest. And then at that point, if you want to invest in a Pinterest manager, or if you want to pin more, then you can, but at least you know the power that it can have inside of your business. So I'm currently starting with only 15 pins. And I've heard plenty of people that if you start with 5, that's perfectly fine too. You'll also hear people that tell you need to start with like 25 or 30 or 40. So you know what? Try the same way that you do with Instagram, where you go from posting, let's say, Monday to Friday, and then you decide you don't like that, so then you start posting every other day or only twice a week. Try until you find your sweet spot. But as a random number, go with 15. When you have a lot of boards, what makes it easy in order to pin all those is that, let's say you have 15 boards, that means you only need to find one pin per category. So if your pin boards are web design, logo, color, and let's say typography, how hard is it to just search quickly, typography inspiration, find a very nice one that has either nice font examples or that seems to have good tips, and go ahead and pin it. So that actually leads us perfectly into the next section, which is original versus repinned content. So when it comes to original content, this is when you actually go ahead and create something from scratch. So it is a new pin design. It is likely a URL leading to your stuff. Hint, it should be. And Pinterest has never seen it before. So that is original content. That is the best kind of content that you can actually put out on Pinterest, okay? Because it is new, so Pinterest will value it as like, hey, this is valuable, it's fresh, nobody has seen it before. I want to put it out and show it to more people so that they can learn something new in theory. And 2, and probably one of the most important reasons why it's so valuable, is because it drives traffic to you. You created it, you use your own URL, so it's gonna lead to your website, to your Instagram, whatever it is that it leads to. So people are gonna see your content, your business. So that's really the main goal out of all of this, is to get new leads into your business. So that's original content. Now, when it comes to repinning, there's 2 different ways really that it comes to repinning. One is repinning your own original content. So that's still good, because if you have, let's say, like I mentioned, you have brand, logo, and typography. You can pin a logo with a nice font onto your logo board. Then you can repin the next day or the next week or whenever that same pin onto your brand board, because it's still a brand. And then you can repin that into typography because it's a nice font or whatever in a logo. So it fits all 3 boards. So that's how you can start to get a sense of how one piece of content original that you created, and it could just be a piece of your portfolio like you guys were saying earlier, and you just got 3 pins out of it. So that's amazing. It's not about creating 15 fresh pins every single day. It's about getting smart and creative about how can you utilize the same piece of content into multiple boards, into multiple URLs. If you have like your portfolio on your Instagram and then your portfolio on your website, and maybe you have your portfolio on some other third-party app, you can go ahead and really start like tweaking and tailoring it so that you have multiple pieces of content for the effort of one. So that's repinning. It's not as powerful as original fresh content because Pinterest will recognize that it has seen that content before. However, it is still boosting you because it is getting your content seen on more boards, so it gets more chances of it being seen, period. Then the other way of repinning, and that's when you're repinning other people's content. So when you're looking at, let's say if you're posting 15 a day, you can actually post, let's say, 5 of your original content and then 10 repins from other people. So it's not that hard. It's 5 pieces that you have to come up with. And when you think of what you're coming up with, it can be really easy. You can repurpose your existing content. So if you posted on Instagram that day and you shared how a brand can help you grow your business and you shared 5 tips, that's 5 pieces of content you can repurpose. So try and again, get those wheels turning and get creative on how it is that you can get the most out of just one piece of content, whether it's one blog, one Instagram post, one portfolio piece, whatever it may be. So like I mentioned, if let's say you post 5 of your own original content and then the other 10 are somebody else's, that's okay. It doesn't matter so much that you are essentially giving them more exposure because those pins and links do lead to other people's stuff, but it's about you showing up as an authority and being like, look, I have all this original content, but I'm also here to serve you in so many other ways, and these are all other pieces that are going to help you. So go ahead and go through my boards and check out all my stuff out, or even if you're going in the search function at the top and it's just popping up, you are still providing value and you're still getting eyes on your stuff, which will boost the rest of your content anyway. So you're good to go in that sense. Okay, let me know how you're feeling about that, how you're feeling about like the number of pins, and if this is something that you can actually see yourself doing, because I want to make sure that at a minimum, whether you consider doing it now or doing it down the line, I want you to feel comfortable with this idea. And I also want to say, if this isn't right for you, that's perfectly fine too, because I'm not about to tell you that you need to do every single strategy out there. You need to pick the ones that make the most sense for you. So if your ideal client is hanging out on Pinterest like we are, then maybe you want to consider Pinterest. But if that's not their cup of tea, then don't. Feel free to exit out of here if you don't want to learn about this. Like, that's perfectly fine. But I want to share these strategies and these methods of finding more clients and getting your content seen in case this is perfect for you, because you can get a lot of traffic from Pinterest and it can do wonders for your business. I totally do understand the whole overwhelmed piece. What I would suggest is, if you want to consider getting into Pinterest and try and see if it's a good fit for you, is, like I mentioned earlier, start with just 5 pieces. So that means that you're only creating 1 piece of original content and the other 4 you're just repinning from somebody else. So for you to come up with 1 pin, it can be the same one that you're doing on Instagram. So I'm not necessarily saying that you have to post your Instagram post on there, but at a minimum, you've come up with a caption. So that caption, create that into content, create your own pin for it, and yes, either drive it to your Instagram, because that would make sense, as that's exactly what you're talking about. But if on your if on your Instagram post you're talking about something that relates directly to one of your pages on your website or some other piece of content that you have that would be powerful, then you can link to that too. So at a minimum, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and like it might be too much, just think about it. You're only creating 1 a day, which is the same one you're already creating for Instagram. So you're not actually creating more work when it comes to coming up with ideas. The only more work you're doing is that you're perhaps designing a pin, which you can design all in advance, and then all you have to do is go in and change the title. You'll sit one day and come up with like a database of keywords and titles and whatever, and you'll just grab a little bit of like the Instagram caption, and you'll just go, okay, this piece is a good hook. Let me post that over to Pinterest. Okay, let me change, this is the hook, so I'll put that as a title on my description, on my pin design, and there you go. There you have it. With 1 idea and 1 piece of content that I came up with, I now have 1 for Instagram and 1 for Pinterest. So if that helps, hopefully that's like an easier way to get into it. And like I mentioned, if this is not the right step for you right now, that's totally fine. You can always get into Pinterest marketing down the line if that's something that you decide to do. Does it have to be per day, or is Monday to Friday okay? So when it comes to specifics like that, I'll go back to the whole I'm not a Pinterest expert. However, I will say that consistency is required. So as long as you're not hot and cold, you're fine. So if you're doing, let's say, Monday to Friday and you're skipping the weekend, if you're consistently doing that, then that's okay, because the same thing happens with Instagram. You can actually like barely even post as long as you're consistent, and let's say if you don't post, you still show up on stories. As long as you're there, you're good. It just can't be like hot and cold, because then your stuff gets kind of lost in the shuffle. So with Pinterest, just pick a schedule that works for you. So if you want to give it a try and give it a shot, and with like little effort, try doing the whole like one post every other day. So you do 5 every other day, but only 1 original. Or I just had an even better idea actually. You can post 5 every day, like Monday to Friday, and then only do an original every other day. So you're still being consistent, you're still pinning, but your original content unfortunately is not very high, but it doesn't matter, because you can start tracking the analytics and get a sense of, okay, what are people responding well to? Am I getting more views? Am I seeing the traffic increase and the click-throughs increase? And if so, then you know that it's worth your time. And you know that you can now start, you're feeling more confident about it, and you know that it's worth you creating more original content. So deviating a little bit from this, I want to kind of explain the whole, I know I keep saying like, oh, you can post like 1 original and then 4 of somebody else's content. When it comes to original content and the strategy behind that, in theory, when you start off, your original content is going to be very low. And that's perfectly okay. So as like a percentage, if you want to look at it that way, you can do like 10%, 20%, whatever you feel comfortable, your original content. So that's a percentage of the number of pins that you do daily. And then on the other hand, as you continue using it, you continue getting more comfortable and creating content more seamlessly, and perhaps your business continues to grow, then that percentage should increase. So if you start at 10% your original content, then move it to 20, 30, 40, 50. Towards the end, when you're just like, you're killing it in your business, you're killing it on Pinterest, you're getting lots of traffic, and it's worth your time or your money to hire somebody to do it for you, that's when you should be doing like 80%, 90% your original content, and then only like 10 to 20% of somebody else's content. And at that point, the results you'll get are astronomical, because you're already getting good results to begin with, but now every good result you get is all driving traffic to you. So that's when it really becomes a gold mine, because you're literally sleeping, you're literally on vacation for 10 days, and you still have new leads coming in, booking discovery calls, seeing your content, etc., because it is automated. You still have to be consistent with it, but it's automated. And it's not just automated as in what you do today. It's what I said earlier. What you did 6 months ago is continuously automating new leads and traffic into your business. So this is why I felt really called to, I mean, it was one of you guys that suggested Pinterest marketing, but I felt really called to go ahead and put it at the top of the list, because it is a gold mine. It can be so powerful. But I completely agree and relate with the whole like overwhelming comment. It's a lot, but it doesn't have to be. You can start with baby steps, see the results, and then move forward. So we talked about activity. So you got your benefits, your profile, your activity. And finally, it comes to the pins themselves. So this is something that you do need to pay a little bit of attention to. And the reason being is that Pinterest has gotten so popular and people are using it so much that Pinterest is continuously enhancing their algorithm. So that means on the first step, we talk about design. So when it comes to the pin design, as designers, I know a lot of you guys are brand designers, you can probably design your own pins. If you're not a designer, or you just don't care to be creating all these things from scratch, you can actually go ahead and use Canva, and they have templates that you can go ahead and essentially plug in all of your content, maybe obviously change the brand colors and put your own images in, but the layouts and the designs are there. So the designs, you can go ahead and use Canva if you want to. So the reason why designs matter and why they are affected by the algorithm is that Pinterest is smart enough to notice if it's an old design or a new design. So I have no idea how they do that. It's way too techy for like my knowledge and my brain capacity. But unfortunately, they can notice if you continuously use the same design, aka the same layout, the same images, and the same colors, and the same text, and you pair it up with the same essentially title, description, and keywords and URL. So what you need to do, and why I love Canva so much, is because you're not spending all this time designing a million pins. You just can go in, find a couple sets that look nice and that kind of fit your vibe, or create a couple like very simple ones from scratch that fit your brand if your brand is very different and particular, let's say. But you can go ahead and continuously repurpose all the different designs. So whether that means that the layout changes a little bit, whether it's like side to side, top to bottom, whatever way the squares and graphics are, or even more in depth, you can switch out the colors, you can switch out where the text goes, and you can switch out the images. Every single time that you switch something out, that's gonna create a new design, and that's gonna boost the chances of it getting like higher ratings essentially and being shown more on Pinterest, because Pinterest will look at that as a fresh design, aka fresh content. So when it comes to that, just keep in mind, don't use the same designs over and over. Try and vary them, even if it's something as small as changing up the text or the colors, etc. So the pin design, next is, I alluded to the title, the description, and the keywords. So this is kind of similar to the Instagram format, except that you have a title. So your title would be the hook, essentially your first sentence that you would typically use on Instagram if you're using that kind of format where you're trying to grab people's attention. So that could be something like how to make 5K in a month, how to have a brand that stands out, how to whatever, make money online, right? So you have your hook, that's your title. That's typically what's already being shown in the design. Then you have your description, which is a brief description of what the pin leads to. So what kind of valuable information are you providing? And then finally, the keywords. So the keywords would be like on Instagram, like you have hashtags. However, the best way to use your keywords is to actually embed them into the sentence. So this is more when it comes to like, it's more relatable or like similar to writing copy on a website and making sure that it's the keywords are kind of embedded in there so that it helps boost your SEO and it becomes actually not searchable but findable, I guess. So make sure that that description has those keywords. Those keywords are essentially what people would be thinking and typing into the search bar in order to find that type of content and that solution. So when you have that title and that description with keywords, make sure that you're rotating those as well. So every now and then, it doesn't have to be often, but just make sure you're refreshing the keywords the same way that you refresh your hashtags, and just make sure that it's fresh, it still applies, and it's still powerful, valuable, and all the good stuff. So when you have a nice combination between a new pin or a varied pin design and a different title and description and URL, then that's all considered original content. So this is where repurposing becomes so powerful, because again, with one, let's say if you're looking at Instagram and repurposing content into Pinterest, with one Instagram post that has 4 tips, 3 tips, whatever, you can create 3 posts with one design. Then you can change the design and you get another 3 posts for the same content. Then you change the title, you get another 3 posts. Then you change the description, you get another 3 posts. And these are all like so many ways. So all of a sudden you have 12 original pins that all are driving traffic to your stuff from one Instagram post. So this is where it's just like mind blowing. You get so much out of one piece of content, and this is where repurposing content just like it brings me life, because out of one Instagram post that will disappear tomorrow and by the end of the week no one will ever see again, and it won't get likes, it won't get comments, it won't get shares, that's one piece of content that now is 12 pieces, and you will continue to get traffic from that for like 6 months or more indefinitely. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is a no-brainer. Let me know, does that sound exciting? Does unlimited traffic and easy to repurpose content sound amazing? Drop me a little fire emoji if you think that is like incredible, mind-blowing, and super tempting. Okay, so we're nearing the end of this training. So the last piece that I want to talk about is the URL. So that's when each pin has a specific URL. So we kind of talked about this already. Just as long as you're driving traffic to your own stuff, that's all you really need to know. And other than that, it's just when you do have the different combinations between the design, the title, the description, and the URL, it flags to Pinterest that, hey, oh my goodness, I've never seen this combination before. This is like crazy original content. I'm gonna boost it even more. So with that said, talked about benefits, talked about how to optimize your profile, talked about the activity and how much time you need to invest in this, which to start doesn't have to be that much. Just test it out to get the results. And then finally, we talked about the pins themselves, the designs, the descriptions, the content. So with that said, that is Pinterest marketing from a non-Pinterest expert in a nutshell. Peace out, guys. Love you guys.